Hey, happy holidays, everybody. So, the newest chapter of My Hero Academia more or less did exactly what I said it was going to do in my 338 prediction video. And I'm not going to go into detail for the obvious reasons, so if you haven't read the chapter, be sure you read it and then head on back. I have a love-hate relationship with spoilers, so when it comes to them, I don't want anyone else to get spoiled unnecessarily. You know, that's why I haven't put out my review video for Spider-Man yet. I just don't want to spoil people for that movie because it was so good. I actually threw one together about whether or not Spider-Man would make it at UA, so let me know if you want to see both Spider-Man videos. I know that it's a pretty hard pivot from manga, but if you guys are down, let me know. But for now, let's head inside and grab ourselves a drink. Welcome to the bar, folks. So, chapter 338 more or less completes the conversation between Oyama and the kids in class 1A. One of the main reasons why I was able to land so many different predictions during the Deku Vigilante arc is because I figured out the pattern of Horikoshi's writing at that time. I don't know whether or not it might have been like editorial breaking up his story to fit these patterns, but it was pretty much that an inciting incident would occur, and then simply enough, 4 chapters later, it would be resolved. And if you move back 4 chapters from chapter 338, you see that pattern is broken. Now, chapter 339 that comes out in 2 weeks might be a completely different story, but the way that chapter 338 ended, it kind of put a kibosh to that type of pattern that was formulaic up until now. Though there were a few different scenes in this chapter that deserve a closer look, so let's head over to the wall and discuss them a bit further. Alright, so first things first, if you enjoy the content here at the bar, do me a solid and hit that like button. And if you want to join in on every video's premiere, be sure to hit that notification bell as well. That way you never miss a premiere where we all pile in together, grab some drinks, and talk about the video. Hanging out with y'all is a lot of fun. And it's actually pretty crazy to say that the bar has been open for almost 3 years. We'll talk about that a little bit towards the end of the video, but for now, we gotta talk about this particular scene in My Hero Academia chapter 338. Because to me, this particular chapter proved to me that every single kid in class 1A is a dependable person. The fact that every single person is now in the know, it brings a entirely new depth to the situation at hand. Because one of the things that I really admonish about the writing at this point is when the shoe was on the other foot and Deku was quote unquote on the run, everyone stood by his side. So when this particular situation with Oyama occurs, there's a different level of sympathy than there was with Deku than with him. Deku was somebody who wanted to leave his friends out of the situation because he didn't want to drag them in and get them killed, while Oyama, on the other hand, is being manipulated by the ultimate evil, and he's the one that needs his friends to realize and help him in the end. But the one thing about this entire interrogation that I absolutely loved, and when I mean loved, I mean it's kind of sad at the same time realizing this, is how worn out Tsukauchi is. For the past couple of chapters, this guy looks so worn out, man, and the decisions that he has to make in the past couple of days are just not befitting somebody of his, stature and position. I mean, when you think about it, in terms of law and order, he was a lowly detective, and now it looks like Tsukauchi and Sanza might be one of the last police officers still standing. But man, when he puts the gag on Oyama, that was a moment that made me go, whoa, that's just thinking ahead. I know every single kid in UA was like, whoa, what the hell are you doing? But Tsukauchi was doing him a favor, man. But that actually isn't the moment that got me the most. This is the moment that got me the most. You see how he looks at his parents just then and there, right here. Look at him. You know why he's looking at him like that? Because he doesn't care if the parents live or die right now. He gagged Oyama because he doesn't know if All For One pulled the Lady Nagant to a certain degree. They know that he might not be booby-trapped because, of the reveal, but Tsukauchi isn't going to take any chances with this kid. But he will take his chances with 2 idiots that thought it was okay to take a quirk from All For One. That is what this face is. The I don't care whether you live or die face. But what comes to this situation is the prediction that I had from the previous chapter. It's that Class 1A was slowly going to realize that now that they know Oyama is the UA traitor, later, they essentially have a one-up on All For One without All For One possibly knowing. The thing is, now that Denki was the guy that figured it out, it's showing you that it was so obvious that the dumbest kid in the class figured it out. Which I'd hate to say this, but it more or less lets us, the reader, know that this plan that they're concocting could go south really quickly. And no offense to Denki here, but if the dumbest individual in the classroom is able to figure out what the plan is going to be before the plan is even made, there's, something that you really need to formulate here. Because while Denki didn't blurt out the plan, he blurted out the possible counteraction against All For One. And if All For One has any hidden quirk inside of Oyama or his parents that lets him listen in on a conversation, they're pretty much boned right from the start. And the one thing that is really cool aesthetic-wise is that Aizawa and President Mike and everyone in the room understands that Denki might have possibly ruined the plan. But luckily, besides the kids in Class 1A, you have one particular individual who feels like they're obligated to stop this situation from occurring because they didn't notice the situation at all, Aizawa. He has the police cover up the Oyama family's ears, and then he lays out the plan to Class 1A and the police. And for the first time, every single student in Class 1A has skin in this game. The look on their faces, it isn't being determined, it isn't being angry, it's the look of someone that is taking something very personally. All For One laid out this blanket that every single student of Class 1A wandered onto, and right now it's being wrapped up all around them. The thing is, now Class 1A has realized that they're being wrapped up in a blanket of deception. So they're in that weird situation now where they can choose their own destiny. And before we talk about the explosive ending of the chapter, there's 3 or 4 panels that I want to take a closer look at. Without the plan being laid out in front of us, this is the closest that we get to a semblance of what the plan is going to encompass. We got Aizawa saying we'll need to inspect every location, an inner monologue from All Might saying it all depends on him, Nezu saying it seems certainly feasible, and Sanza and Tsukauchi escorting the Oyama family back to HQ while saying that it might be worth a try. And it's kind of obvious as to what they're talking about. They're going to use the Oyama family as bait to try to draw out the villains to see if maybe they can get Shigaraki or All For One to make an appearance. And to be honest with everyone, I'm saying that the trap is the most obvious outcome because it's just the most obvious outcome. For all we know, All For One doesn't show up to the trap and he sends his no-moves. Either way, this counterattack is something that they're going to try to do to debilitate the villains any further because they know that they're so outnumbered by them. I think that All For One will most likely send one of his no-moves to try to retrieve an asset or destroy an asset. I don't think the man himself would show up for this particular type of situation. I kind of really hope that the hero's one hope isn't the fact that Oyama could possibly make some small talk with All For One while everyone gets into place to possibly take him down, because I don't see that happening whatsoever. I would see All For One absolutely killing every single one of them if that's the plan they go through with. I mean, I hate to say that you really need to figure out the plan here or else it can go south really quickly, because they've done nothing but harp on the fact that the villains overwhelm their numbers by a lot. So what I would say is the heroes need to discover a way to generate enough outrage to draw the man out himself. Make it that instead of the 6 no-moves showing up to bring in Oyama, make it that him and 6 no-moves show up to try to bring in Oyama. UA is using a trap as an equalizer. The villains outnumber them by so much that they need to gather their resources, make a plan, and figure out how to dwindle those numbers. And that's when we go back to what I was saying prior about sometimes the story can be a little bit predictable. Now that the plan has been established, the nuts and bolts are going to start being enacted, meaning it's time for some new suits. And what we get is a little bit of a decompression to all the tension that's going on in this chapter. We get Mei blowing up the support studio once again and landing on top of Deku. Mei coming back into the story is so much fun because she's a character that brings levity to a certain situation, and also what's more fun than seeing some of our characters get upgrades. I like to think that Horikoshi has kind of given us a little bit of a taste as to what the upgrades could possibly look like with chapter 254's popularity poll picture. If anything, here kind of tells me the type of art direction that we're probably going to see when we see Deku's new costume coming in a couple of weeks. And I'm sorry if I'm the person that has to break this news to you, but the news coming out of Jump Fest of 2022 is that My Hero Academia is gonna be ending in 2022. But let's take that information, though sad it might be, and think about what's gonna be happening for the next couple of months. Horikoshi is essentially starting the new year with his gear up scene. When heroes roll up in the new costume ready, that's usually the signifier that this arc is coming to an end, or I guess in this case, the story itself. So look, let me know what you thought about this chapter. Did you feel like the writing of My Hero Academia to a certain degree story was turning out to be a little bit predictable. And if you like the way that they resolved the Oyama trader debacle, let me know. I particularly absolutely adored it. I thought the way that they came about it and the way that they executed it was flawless. And to be 100% honest with you, the character that stole the show for me was Tsukauchi. The little nuances in Tsukauchi's demeanor and emotions were the things that won it over for me. Even though he's really not a main character, he's the driving force of this chapter, considering he has to make a decision on whether or not he's going to use a child as bait. And one last thing on a personal note, everybody. Thank you all for coming to the bar these past 3 years. This might be the last video of the year. I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking about doing a live stream on Friday for the release of Vigilantes, but if it is, I hope every single one of you has a happy and healthy new year. I probably will put out another video before the new year, but I got a lot of things going on right now in my life. So let me know if you want to see those Spider-Man videos. I got them recorded. And until next time, folks, have a happy and healthy new year, and remember, be not be defeated by the rain. Cheers.